I've watched every Louis C.K. special multiple times. After finishing Ridiculous, one question kept coming back to me. Where does it actually rank? To answer that, we first need to understand how Louis got here. Though he began stand-up at an open mic in Boston in 1984, Louis C.K. initially struggled to find his own distinctive voice and style. It was only 20 plus years later that he taped his first half-hour special, One Night Stand in 2005. His career really took off after he committed to releasing a special yearly, with 2007's Shameless, 2008's Chewed Up, and self-produced Hilarious in 2010. Louis built a trust with his audience, distributing most of his specials on his personal website, which omitted a streaming service like Netflix or HBO. His show Louis was being hailed as a masterpiece. He had a deal for 2 Netflix specials, live at the Comedy Store in 2015, and 2017 in 2017. He was on top. What could go wrong? That. Multiple women accused Louis of sexual misconduct in 2017. He admitted that the accounts were true, apologized publicly, and largely disappeared from the spotlight. Fortunately for him, he had already built a career that didn't depend entirely on Netflix network executives. He returned independently with Sincerely, Louis C.K. in 2020, followed by Sorry in 2021. Interesting order of titles. Today's premiere of Ridiculous, or actually yesterday's now that I'm recording this, is Louis' first ever stand-up special since 2023 and marks a rekindled relationship with Netflix. Whether Louis deserves forgiveness or a second chance isn't the question I'm trying to answer here. Those are separate conversations. My question is much simpler. Does Ridiculous succeed as a stand-up special? Let's find out. Much like many of his previous specials, Ridiculous doesn't waste time with the spectacle. There are no elaborate opening sketches or dramatic introductions. Louis just simply walks on stage and begins talking. That simplicity is notable. 2017 opens with Louis embracing a friend before launching in material, while Live at the Comedy Store spends several minutes introducing the room before Louis even appears. Ridiculous strips away even these small touches. It's just Louis, alone. The presentation mirrors the career he's built over the past decades, one that operates largely on his own terms. It's also interesting to me how he shows up in a t-shirt. There's no suit, there's no glamour, and with the exception of 2017, this is a return to form for him. Within minutes, he's already doing an outrageous premise, much like the abortion opener from 2017. Here, Louis once again establishes the rules immediately. Nothing is off limits, whether it's abortion, sex, bodily functions. The audience understands from the opening minutes exactly what kind of an hour they're in for. One interpretation is that Louis intentionally begins with his most uncomfortable material to establish trust. If the audience follows him through these opening minutes, they're willing to follow him almost anywhere for the rest of the special. Longtime fans may notice that Ridiculous feels surprisingly interconnected with his previous work. Louis visits ideas and images that have appeared throughout his career, from the rats joke in Live at the Comedy Store to recurring stories involving babies and airplanes. These aren't direct repeats so much as expansions. The callback reward audiences who've spent years following his work and make his comedy feel like one continuous conversation rather than isolated specials. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the hour is how little Louis avoids subjects that, on paper, are probably dangerous for him. If anything, he pushes harder into them. At one point, he compares the sun to female genitalia, and throughout the special, he returns repeatedly to sexual topics. Typical. Regardless of how someone may feel about the material itself, it takes confidence to make these jokes while fully aware that many viewers will judge them through the lens of his public downfall. The audience at the taping is almost certainly more receptive than the average Netflix viewer, yet Louis never seems interested in softening his approach for them. Beneath the shock material, though, Ridiculous is largely about aging. Nearly every major thread eventually circles back to getting older, losing control of your body, and watching the people around you deteriorate. No relationships illustrates this better than the one Louis has with his father. Louis has spoken publicly over the years about having a difficult relationship with his father, and that history gives this section additional weight. Rather than turning it into a sentimental story, he mines it for resentment. One of the special's biggest pieces follows Louis placing his father in a care home, describing the experience as less of a heartbreak than relief. The joke escalates as he insists he'd happily pay almost any amount in the world of money simply to hand the responsibility of his father over to someone else. The story continues when Louis visits his father in the home, and that's where the routine expands beyond family into something I think is larger. Mortality hangs over the entire bit. Louis has spent much of the special complaining about his own aging, and now he's staring at the destination waiting for everyone. It pushes him further into the cynical worldview that defines the rest of the hour, a perspective that occasionally feels reminiscent of the late George Carlin. Unlike Carlin, though, Louis rarely aims his anger at society. His frustration is directed at life itself. We see this when he discusses topics such as dating in your 50s, or even mundane ones like going out to the movies. This is really where Louis' inner Carlin is on display, as he rants about every sunny day being a good day, or not being able to enjoy the movies anymore because of constantly needing to use the bathroom. One of Louis' greatest strengths has always been his ability to begin with the mundane before expanding into something philosophical, like boneless, skinless chicken breasts, listening, having children later in life, and even barely legal magazines. Each begins as an ordinary observation before expanding into a broader commentary about the world around him if you know where to look. Boneless, skinless chicken breasts lead to an absurd discussion about unnecessary consumer products. Listening evolves into an argument that lying is just as essential to society's honesty, like in court, a guilty person has no choice but to lie, despite swearing on the Bible to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Having children later in life becomes a commentary on biology, aging, and the financial burden of modern parenthood. Even Barely Legal magazine examines how society draws a rigid moral boundary that can shift overnight despite nothing fundamentally changing. You're 17 one day, legal the next. Even when we try to escape the negative parts of life through a simplistic religion or idea, take Buddhism, Louis has an issue with that, arguing that even something as pure and simple as Buddhism can neither predict nor protect he and his followers from a ridiculous world. Louis' thesis is as hilarious as it is true when he emphasizes the point that life is too long. You can have a great one, but you're still alive after that part. And no amount of caviar or soap from a farmer's market can fix that.
Here's what I think. This is what I think.
So, does Ridiculous stand up to the task? I'd say yes. Well, if you hate him, this won't make you love him. And if you love him, this is just classic Louis. Perhaps most importantly, the hour, to me at least, is consistently funny. Louis never lets the ideas overwhelm the comedy, and there aren't a lot of comics who could pump out more than 10 quality specials in their career and still even be relevant, let alone great. 40 years into his career, Louis C.K. still possesses one of stand up's rarest abilities, finding uncomfortable truths where most comedians find just hacky, easy punchlines. Ridiculous won't change anyone's opinions of Louis himself, but he doesn't seem interested in trying to do that. What it does demonstrate is that as a writer and performer, he's still remarkably sharp. If life really is too long, as Louis argues, at least he's making those extra years. damn funny.